Hey everybody, hope you guys are all doing okay. Welcome back to Siralim Ultimate. As you can see, it is indeed... Ooh, we are indeed in a different week. We now have an even higher chance of finding nether stones than previously. Although that's not going to be relevant for this episode, because for this episode we are going back to the Gate of the Gods. Now in the previous Gate of the Gods fight, which I believe was against Venedon? Yeah, we fucking wrecked this guy. We used the Fermented Hops party to take this guy out. And it was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. Oh, hang on. Vulcanar, God of Fire. I'm curious that is there if we use burn their corpses, can we stop Vulcanar from you know what, that's gonna be something to test for later. We'll come back to this guy after we have the fire starter anointment, and then we'll test to see whether that works. What we will do in this episode is we're gonna pick a fight. This one I think is gonna be good for the Fermented Hops party. When I think this one also is going to be good for the Fermented Hops party. At the start of your creature's turn. Again, this seems like a... again, this is going to be tough. I'm going to pick a... Shelled... Enemies... Spell gems consume all charges after they're cast. That's again gonna be tough. At the end of each enemy's turn, they take damage. This could be an okay fight. So, last episode we used the Fermented Hops party. This episode, last Gate of the Gods episode, we used Fermented Hops. This one, I want to use my Animator's party, right? Because otherwise it would be a... What? Every other... This, again, I think... Blighted could be good. A lot of these, I think, are gonna... Enemies... Oh, we've already taken down Gonfurian, thank fucking god for that. Life ain't fair. Your creatures are immune to damage. All your enemies can do is try to survive the onslaught until your creatures are too tired to fight. You know what, man? Let's just get Lister out of the way, because this feels like it's going to be an annoying one. And it also feels like it's going to be a good one for our current party, because all we will really have to do is keep him permanently locked down with the entangling roots and entangling roots, entangle some more roots, just keep on entangling these there roots. Nope. Okay. Defend, 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 defend. Defend, defend. Yeah. This is gonna be the entire battle, it seems. Okay. Are we actually gonna be able to... There's probably an easier way to do this. Because... I mean, not an easier way necessarily, because there's no real... There we go. Oh, I'm getting tired of all this nonsense. It's about time I retire for the evening. Good night. And, we cast corpse explosions at the end. Okay. We already get a skin. We get some Lister mana. We get some emblems. And, yep. Lister... Ooh, boy. This is gonna be a... potentially long episode if we gotta do this that many times, but you know what? It's gotta happen, man. Oh, no, don't attack. Start with some entangling roots. And you can just start defending. You can start doing that. And yeah, we just on entangling roots constantly. Everyone else can defend. Our two people can just, I don't know. Alright, okay. Ooh, actually no, the Dread White should be provoking. Just in case one of them does take their turn. Yeah, everyone else can defend. No. I'm curious though. Does time walking the... is time walking... Yeah, actually no, you should provoke. Would time walk on the boss do anything? If, like, is that a way to make this happen quicker? No, what have I done? I wonder... Maybe... I feel like, okay, looks like the time walk thing isn't really panning out, so let's not worry about that. Let's just do it the classic way, because I feel like no matter what build you used, yeah, okay, maybe you have some really efficient build that's able to keep them locked down without the you know, manual spellcasting that's going on, maybe. But in the end, it would still be a lot of waiting. So let's just get this fight out of the way, and that'll be how this episode's gonna go. Well, I was expecting, you know, usually I decide ahead of the episode which, oh no, what am I doing? Usually I decide ahead of the episode which of the gods I'm gonna fight. This one I was like, I'll do it in, I'll get to the episode and then decide. And it was, I guess... Oh hey, he's got Thylacine in his party, the new creature that we just unlocked. Nice. I mean, it's useless for his party, but it's still cool to see. it's still cool to see. But yeah, I mean, I guess it wasn't something that took us too long, right, to decide which of these to fight, because my philosophy, as always, is you should get the most annoying stuff done early, and then the rest of it will just be all the fun stuff. That's my philosophy for many things in life. To an extent, to an extent. Sometimes you've got to ease yourself in, do a little bit of the easy stuff. But I feel like, you know, we're hundreds of episodes into this game. We are pretty deep. We have a pretty good idea of what's what are the good parts. I mean, like, what are the fun parts, and what are the more, shall we say, grindy parts. And I think this is definitely one of the more grindy fights. So that's good night. Another emblem for you. One thing I'm gonna do, and this is gonna make things slightly more convenient, is that I'm gonna change your default strategy to provoke. Just so that I don't have to keep manually picking that. And let's go. Jesus, we're only on level 14? Really? Oh my god, this is gonna take so long. It's not even that it almost certainly isn't gonna take as long as the like the really long ones we've had, the ones that have gone like 2.5, almost 3 hours. It's not going to be that long. It feels long just because of how monotonous it is. Like there's no thought going into this, right? It's all just. I'm almost hoping that one of his creatures like gets really lucky and breaks through our snares and like does something. And then we've got to scramble, like kills one of our party members, and then we've got like, oh no, like kills Meraxus maybe, and then we got to be like, oh yeah, should we bring back to life, or should we just try and wait it out? But I guess that's just how it's gonna be. So I guess we can use this episode as a bit of an excuse to just like chat about random stuff, you know, because there's not a whole lot of point in commentating on what's going on the screen, just because, right, it's pretty self-explanatory for the most part. We are just preventing them from taking turns. Eventually, the battle is just going to end, and then we move on to the next one. So what are my plans for the series? Well, I mean, obviously, I want to get 100% completion. That is given. But we gotta break it up into chunks. And what I'll talk about while I'm doing this is, again, my plans for the party that is eventually gonna replace the our Animator party as our main realm clearing party. But I just don't know if it's gonna work, right? Because I want to use the Fermented Hops party, and I want to trick it out so that it has some defensive value and really amp up the blight damage by like ridiculous amounts, getting all the good multipliers in. So that even if we have, like, enemies have 50% less damage taken, 90% less indirect damage, that even in those circumstances we can just kill them with Blight. But one thing I'm worried about is, like, eventually we'll run into enemies that are just immune to indirect damage outright. Like, for instance, using that party, if we're fighting a false god, we could never ever give it the trait that makes it immune to indirect damage, because then we would simply not be able to kill it. So I'm like, okay, well, how do we counteract that? Do we just accept that there are things, potentially there are realms we might not be able to clear because of the creatures we're fighting, or the you know, the specific false god or another boss having some weird property? I don't know. There's a lot of tinkering is gonna have to be done, but I just really like the way that party worked out, because it is okay. So I've been talking right now a lot about the downsides. Okay, like what if we run into creatures that are immune? It's so much focused on one type of damage, and that's kind of bad, you know, putting all your eggs in one basket. But the good side of it is just so good. The fact that it does percentage damage, and it simply doesn't care how strong its opponents are. Like, we have to fight these guys to level 50, right? But that party literally wouldn't care. You could take it to level 1 billion. You could take it to level Graham's number. And if you don't know what Graham's number is, just do a YouTube search for Graham's number, or a Google search, and you'll understand why I have chosen that as an example of a big number. Like, you could have any number, and the creatures would simply not be able to cope, because we're doing percentage damage. I mean, like, the enemy creatures would not be able to cope because we're doing percentage damage. It doesn't matter how much health they have, how many of their other stats are also big, because number one, we start at the top of the timeline, and number two, we kill them straight away with damage that is anchored to whatever their health is. We take, you know, 30% of it down in one go, and then we hit them with like 6 of those attacks, you know, meaning there's no chance for them to do anything. So that's the good thing about the party. And I'm actually pretty excited about eventually switching to a different party. But again, a lot of thought is going to have to go into it. I was like, okay, we will definitely need to keep Reclusa in the party, because otherwise it just doesn't work. And we won't have Miraxis, right? So we're not going to be able to scale the way we scaled with this party. So our current party is also kind of similar, in the sense that within certain limits, we don't care how strong the enemy is, because we can scale infinitely and we're not held back by diminishing returns. But the difference between our party and the Fermented Hops party is that, like, if an enemy had a really, really high level, again, using Graham's number as an example, we would not be able to cope with that, because there's no way we'd be able to keep scaling, even scaling infinitely, even, you know, doubling every time for, you know, the rest of eternity. Well, like, eternity would do it, but for the rest of a human's natural life, we wouldn't be able to catch up to, you know, something that's truly large. So, I mean, in the context of this game, that's never going to come up, right? Because this game, the enemies are gaining levels, gaining health as you go down in the various realms, but predictably, and in a... It's probably not linear, but it's also not it's not some, you know, crazy exponential thing either, right? It's they're growing, but at a rate that we can very clearly contend with. But the downside is that it takes us time, right? When we fight a false god, when we fight a nether boss, when we fight enemies that have tons of health, when the realm properties are lowering our damage, often we can't immediately finish the enemies off on turn 1, right? Sometimes it takes us into another turn, and that... it's not a huge deal, because whether or not we would win would never be in doubt. But it's just taking us longer, because sometimes the damage we do, or at least the damage that we're capable of at the start of combat, is just not enough. And so I think that's the trade-off. This party is very hard to kill, and can eventually win in almost any circumstance. Whereas, like, it can win in almost any circumstance, but sometimes it takes it a while. The Fermented Hops party, when it can damage the enemy, is almost always guaranteed to win on turn 0 or turn 1. Almost always. But the disadvantage is that sometimes enemies, because it's so focused on one type of damage, sometimes the enemies might just be a little bit too much. You know, I'm gonna actually start letting these guys take occasional turns, right? Because just to make things a little bit exciting. Just to make things a little exciting. Because otherwise it's gonna be a very, very tedious episode. And you know what? That's just a... It was bound to happen, you know. One of these gods was bound to have the Jotun gimmick. Because there's a false god as well, which has a similar thing, where you've got to... You can't do any damage to him, and all you can do is just, you gotta wait. So, yep, all we're gonna do is wait. And, you know what, that's fine. It's... in a strange kind of way, it is relaxing, you know, because nothing's going on. Oh, I'm getting tired again. Yeah. I'm just mashing the buttons, and we're just only, oh my god. We haven't even hit level 20, Jesus. Oh, I'm getting tired. Like me, I'm talking about me. I'm not making fun of this guy. Like, me in real life, I'm getting tired of this. Oh no. But you know what? It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine, right? I don't know who I'm trying to console, like who I'm trying to convince that it'll be fine, like me or like you guys, or am I trying to convince myself? You know, hard to say. That's interesting. Not sure what happened there. Excuse me? What? I have no idea. No idea what happened there. Oh my god. Well, I mean, that actually, at least that made things a little interesting and, you know, broke up some of the monotony. Alright, well, I guess we're going back to defending. There's some weird stuff going on in this fight. Oh, good night. So there's one thing I'm gonna do that's gonna make this a little bit more convenient, is that I'm gonna create a new spell gem of entangling roots. I'm gonna enchant the entangling roots. Wait, I already have one. You know what? Disenchant. The duration isn't really that important. Now, enchant. I give it a death transformation, because I'm going to equip it on my Animatus. More charges. Although that didn't really do much. I'll make it generous. And you're not really using Greater Dispel that much. I mean, you're not really using anything really. So just for this, I'm gonna swap out Greater Dispel for Entangling Roots. There we go. So do I have an Entangling Roots macro? Okay. Wait, no. Let me go to macro. Time walk. I need to rename these. Scorn, confused, attack a random enemy. I don't remember what that macro was for. That's the skip turn macro. Clayman. Wasted age. Okay, that's an annoying one, but we're not really worrying about that. So let me... If this creature has more than 0% health, cast Entangling Roots. That's gonna be the thing. And if you run out of Entangling Roots, the creature is alive, fucking, I don't know. Defend. Whatever. And let me go to my spell gems for the Mimic. I'm gonna get rid of Exhaustion. Haven't really used it, but I'll re-equip it after this. And I'm gonna... hang on. You don't have it. Okay, I'll give you entangling roots as well. You know what? I can upgrade the one that we already have. Gonna have to give it a sorcery transform. Enchant. Sorcery. Again, we can give it more charges. Doesn't really do much, but it's fine. We can make it generous. And yeah, manage spell gems, entangling roots, and I took away greater dispel from you. I took away exhaustion from you. So we'll remember that and we'll re-equip them at the end. And now we're gonna continue with the Lister fights. Oh, hang on a second. Hang on, let me oh god, let me rename the macro just so I remember what this one is. You can have 50 pages of macros, by the way, which feels like it's probably enough. Rename. I'm just gonna call it roots. Oh, no. Roots. Yeah. Confirm. Alright, that. Assign macro roots. Assign macro roots. You are gonna defend. You know what? Everybody's just gonna be on roots. Everybody's gonna be on roots. And when you run out of roots, you defend. Hopefully this works, right? Oh, hang on. Let's just make sure everybody has roots. You're okay, except for everybody also has the correct strategy. Okay, now let's see if this works. Finally, we're into the level 20 fight. Oof. Also, how long have we been recording for? It's already gone past half an hour. Not that long. Okay, that's a lot quicker now that we're not manually just picking our spells. So hopefully this results in a quicker resolution to our issues with this dude. Alright. And maybe this is how you speed up the fight. It's not about what build you have. It's about the way you use your macros. That's actually... That is actually pretty cool. That... I don't know if the... I don't even know if the developer intended this to be the thing. But, like, oh yeah, look at that. That was so smooth. That was so smooth. In fact, most probably the developer didn't specifically intend this to be the thing. But to me, it's like, okay, different challenges in this game require different approaches, and most of those approaches are just in terms of the difficulty, and you deal with it by changing your build. But the challenge posed by this boss wasn't its difficulty, it was the fact that he's trying to waste your time. Like, that's all this is. The only thing about this fight is that it has to go a certain number of turns before it ends. And then you can't... Well, you can have certain things to your build that'll help you survive, right? Just in case the boss is gonna kill you. Okay, that's fine. But like, you can't... You're never gonna do any damage to this guy, so your build isn't gonna help you win the fight in that sense. Your build isn't gonna make... Or most builds, I imagine, aren't gonna make turns go by faster, right? I'm sure there's gonna be some weird interaction that's gonna be like, you know, creatures take 2 turns at a time or something, and then that halves the fight, or some weird interaction like that. But beyond that, the only way you can affect the fight is to make sure that you as a player are taking your turns more quickly. Your build isn't going to help you with that. The only thing that'll help you with that is going to be your macros. And yeah, so here's a fight that you deal... Here, we finally got the plush, yeah! Here's a fight that you deal with, not with your build, but with your macros. Or at least that's how I feel after this. Like, it's not about... It's about how clever are you at avoiding the work that the game is making you do. And unfortunately, now that all of our creatures, or I guess fortunately for us, unfortunately for him, now that all of our creatures are casting Entangling Roots and defending the rest of the time, these guys are never gonna get a turn. Unless they have some weird trait, you know, like that's putting them at the top of the timeline or something. Or some unusual interaction that's causing them to have actions when it's not their turn. That's it. So this episode is maybe not gonna be that long. Like, it's still repetitive, but at least I found a way to dramatically reduce the amount of time it's taking. And that's a decent compromise, because previously, when we didn't have these macros, it was repetitive, and also it was taking time, and also it was requiring a lot of manual input, which ultimately, you know, helps. Sorry, a friend was messaging me. I'm just putting my phone away. But yeah, this I'm pretty happy with this. And what I like about this is that I think anybody watching this fight can do the same thing. It doesn't matter what party you're running. You could have literally any specialization. The only thing you would have to do is you'd have to have a mimic in your party. You'd have to have Entangling Roots. You'd have to have Entangling Roots on a couple different creatures for optimal effect, right? Otherwise you'd be going into your ethereal charges and those might run out. But even then, that would usually get you to the end of the fight, but sometimes having those extra Entangling Roots will make sure that these guys never take a turn. What I like about this is that anybody watching this can do what I'm doing right now, unless the game introduces some update in the future which dramatically changes things, and I don't think they will. I feel like this game is very much in its finished final form, very polished, very complete, and there's no need to change things. And assuming the game stays in this form, it's gonna be this is gonna be something that anybody can do. So I feel like I've also contributed a little bit to you know, the body of knowledge for how to play this game. So yeah, like, because this strategy is it's just impervious. It's foolproof. Nothing is getting through. Nothing is getting through. And our Dread White is provoking. I could even have the Dread White do other stuff. But like our Dread White, if some miracle happens and they end up taking a turn, then our Dread White is just gonna soak up the damage. And then maybe even resurrect immediately afterwards. It's just a... Oh, I'm getting tired. Well, you're getting tired, but I'm just getting started. Yeah. So we have now beaten Lister... Well, still, it's only been like 14 of these that we've done against him, because we started with one win already, right, from the time that we ascended. Still got to do another 25. But you know what? You know what? It's fine. Every win it takes us slightly closer. It's just that every win takes about a minute, I guess, maybe a little bit more than a minute. Under 2 minutes, I would imagine. Yeah. Crafting those spells and setting up the macro was definitely a good idea, because it will save us way more time than whatever we spent getting that ready. And even if it doesn't save us that much time, it does make it feel a lot less intrusive, not having to manually do everything every time. It does at least mentally make the whole process feel so much different. So much more so much more relaxing. This is also giving me an idea for like maybe other ways of fighting enemies. Like, what if you had a party that just kept enemies permanently locked down with entangling roots, but had some other way of automatically doing damage over time? Could that be a way of fighting enemies? I mean, the more I think about it, it wouldn't be a very fun way of playing. Because the only reason this is okay is because we're doing it as kind of a funny novelty thing, and then when it's over, we're gonna go back to playing the game normally. But if you had to do this against every enemy, it would get really old. It would get really old pretty quickly. Even if, you know, most fights didn't go as long as this, it would get pretty old. Right, you would get tired of it. Alright. Yeah, I am glad that we're getting this guy out of the way, because even with all the time saving we've implemented, it still is a bit of a tedious fight, all things considered. Like, I wouldn't mind fights going that long if I was actually casting spells and selecting my actions, you know, doing Clayman, getting my health up, doing Rabid Dementia, tactically using Entangling Roots, you know, if it seemed like a dangerous enemy was about to take a turn. That I could do, and, you know, even for like a couple hours and not feel like it's taken that long, just because of the consistent mental stimulation throughout the whole process. But this one, is not going to be 2 hours long. At least I hope not. But it does feel it, the sort of the brainless nature of it does make it feel a little bit. The brainless nature and the fact that even though we've automated a lot of it using the macro, I still have to manually press the button, right? I haven't programmed a bot to play this game for me, although it wouldn't be difficult with this fight because literally there's no manual spellcasting at all. All I'm doing is mashing A the entire fight. It would be very easy to write a bot, although I would have to program the bot to also walk down to the Gate of the Gods, select the correct god, go into the fight, you know, and then walk up to Lister. And that would be the programming challenge, I imagine. It wouldn't even be that difficult, right? It would just I think I would spend more time getting that together than I would just playing this fight. Although it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting to see how that would work. I mean, it wouldn't be that difficult, right? As long as you could read what the state of the game is and be like which realm are you in. If you're in the hub area, walk down, and when you hit an obstacle, or you could just know how much distance there is and be like, when you've walked this distance, press A. That's going to open up the interface for the Gate of the Gods. And then as long as you can tell it to be like, okay, either finding Lister in this list would be a needlessly complicated, like doing a word search. That would be a needlessly complicated way to do it. You just be like, okay, scroll down X number of times, that'll put you at Lister, and then press A again. That'd be a simpler way to do it, and then that would put you in the Lister arena, and then you'd be like, okay, walk up X units and then press A. That's going to open up the Lister dialogue. In the Lister dialogue, from that point on, all you're doing is pressing A. You're pressing A to skip the dialogue, you're pressing A to use the macros, or, you know, the default provoke action from the Dread White. And then you're just doing this until the end of the fight. And then after the end of the fight, you get put back into the hub area, and then you loop back to the start, right, where you're like, okay, now walk down X units, and you know, do the whole process all over again. Be a simple way to do it, but I'm not going to. Number one, it's gonna be completely useless after we're done with this fight, and also that would legitimately feel like cheating, right? I'm not gonna introduce external programs to interact with this game. That's where I draw the line. Maybe once I've already 100%ed the game, then we can have like a bonus series where we're doing, like, you know, stuff that feels like cheating. But no, I'm not gonna do anything like that. Not in this series. But it's still a fun thought experiment, right? To think about how would you solve this problem. Yeah, I can't spot any obvious holes, because it would literally be the same thing every time. It drops you off in the same spot in the hub area. The distance between you and the Gate of the Gods is never going to change. When you do go into the arena, it drops you off in the same spot in the arena. That distance is never going to change. Yeah, it'd be pretty easy. But I mean, I feel like, again, easy doesn't necessarily mean that it will be quick. Might take a lot of time. put it together. But, yeah, it's still a fun thing to think through. Alright, now we're about halfway through. I think after this fight we will be halfway through, like we'll have done... well, we'll be at level 30, but then we started at level 10, so we'll be at halfway between 10 and 50. That's just as soon as this guy gets tired. Hang on. Waxar, what's that? Is that a manticore? Or is that... Hang on. That's a weird creature name. Hang on, let me look this up. Okay, here are the manticores. There is a manticore with just a really weird name. That's a really... Is this like an Easter egg? Marty Martiax or that might be it, or it might be like some, I don't know, mythical creature in some mythology. But I mean, that is weird, right? Like, they're all called manticores. This guy is just fucking... just got a completely different format. Like, completely different naming system. Or, like, he's not following the naming system for the rest of his brethren. Right. Here, we just got 20 more to go. How long have we been recording? Less than an hour. And we're halfway through, so it's going to be less than 2 hours. And in fact, a lot of the time was spent either in the very inefficient way we were doing it early on, before we put our macros together, before we put our spells together. And then there was also the time spent putting the macros on the spells, and so the rest of it should be pretty straightforward. We're gonna get a couple more of these done even before the 1 hour mark hits, so that'll be a that'll be nice. Just get as many of these done as quickly as we can. Yeah, our own creatures are slowing things down a little bit with their extra actions, but I mean, is there any point? Like, I don't want to start like unequipping my relics. You know, that's where I draw the line. It wouldn't save us that much time, and it would just be another, chore to do at the end of the episode. So let's just continue. 32. Once we're into the 40s, right? That's when it'll start feeling like we are in the end zone. All right. I don't know. Maybe I should unequip my relics. Although it would only save us like in the order of maybe several like maybe 10 seconds per remaining run, which would add up to like 3 minutes in the remaining, or almost 3 minutes in the remaining 18. But then you gotta factor in the time spent, like I gotta walk all the way to the reliquary and unattune it, and then I'll have to walk back to the reliquary to reattune these relics. Yeah, I'm not gonna do it. I'm just gonna do it this way. Especially because it would be like saving a small amount of time would be fine if I was thinking that I was gonna record another episode immediately after this one, but I'm not. I'm just gonna immediately after this. I'm just gonna have breakfast. I'm gonna have some waffles. Some Belgian waffles, nice buttery Belgian waffles. Well, the waffles themselves aren't buttery. I toast them and then I add butter onto them, so the butter gets nice and melted. I use salted butter, which I feel like makes it taste a little bit better than regular butter. But I mean, regular butter would still be great. Like, you know, the main thing is the butter and not necessarily whether it's salted butter or not. I just prefer salted butter for many things. Anyway, so salted butter and bit of maple syrup. Now the maple syrup, that's very important, right? Because there are different kinds you can get. The kind that I use, and I think this is just objectively the best kind of maple syrup. It's bourbon barrel aged maple syrup, and like that stuff is just delicious. So the taste itself, you can taste a hint of bourbon, but it's the smell, I think, that really makes it. Because if you open the bottle and you smell it, it legitimately just smells like bourbon. It smells like bourbon with a hint of syrup. Like, that's how powerful the aroma is. The taste is the opposite. The taste is syrup with a hint of bourbon, but when you smell it, it legitimately just, legitimately it just smells like bourbon. Now that makes me think. That makes me wonder. What would the waffles taste like if instead of maple syrup, I just poured bourbon on them? Oh man, I feel like that'd be a crazy thing to do for fucking breakfast. But oh, that would be that would be something to try. That would definitely be something to try at least once. And now all I can think about is bourbon waffles. That's gonna be on my mind for the rest of the day, or at least until after I'm done with breakfast. Because I know I'm about to have waffles. Obviously, any waffle-related thought is gonna be taking precedence in my mind. I mean, I was gonna say like it would. I was gonna say it wouldn't taste good, but maybe it would. Maybe it would. I feel like, though, if you're just pouring straight bourbon onto a waffle, that's a lot of bourbon, right? If you think about just the amount that you're pouring versus the amount that you would drink. And if you're pouring the same amount that you would be pouring as syrup, that's a lot. I mean, it's a lot, but at the same time, it's not something you do regularly. If it's something you're only doing once, I guess that's fine. But still, I mean, and obviously the rest of it is that you're actually going to consume all of that bourbon. And that would be a... If you're doing that for breakfast, that would be an interesting way to start the day. To be sure. Unfortunately, I don't have any bourbon on hand, so I'm not going to be testing that out, in case you were wondering, but like, if any of you ever feels inclined to try that, do let me know how it goes. Do let me know how it goes. Right. I've got another 15 left to go. Another 15, and then we will call it good. Alright, come on. Come on. Yeah, I mean, I've gone quiet for a bit just because there's not a lot you can commentate on, and now I'm thinking like what else can I talk about? I can just start talking about random things, I guess. I guess I can talk about what one of my plans for this channel, like one of the next big series that I want to do, and I'm definitely gonna do it. It's just a question of when is it gonna start, how is it gonna fit into my schedule, but I really want to do Fallout New Vegas, and I want to do a completionist run. Like a comprehensive do everything kind of run, but a very specific kind of completionist run, one that I don't like. A lot of people have played Fallout New Vegas, a lot of people have done 100% runs of Fallout New Vegas, but don't think anybody's quite done the kind of run that I'm planning to do. So, but before I even plan it, before we even start it, I need to plan out what my build is going to be, because the starting stats and specifically what the final distribution of your main stats is going to be is kind of important, because it does affect a lot of big things in the game, what your stats are going to be. And depending on what kind of build you want to use, like do I want to be do I want my main character to be like a sniper? Do I want my main character to use like heavy explosive weapons? Do I want him to be a melee character? Do I want him to be stealthy at all? Him or her, I haven't decided on the gender yet. Depending on what your goal is for what kind of character you want to play, the optimal stats are very different. So I guess that's, before I even think about optimal stats, I'm going to need to think about what kind of character do I want to play. And, that'll be the first step. And then, in a way, choosing that first step will also solve the second question of what kind of stats do I need for this. Yeah, so that's the first thing I need to decide. And then the next thing, and this is where you can just start looking up guides, is what is the most effective way to make sure you max out all your stats by finding all of the permanent stat skill books. There are some perks that help with that as well. And then the next part, this is where my playthrough is going to be maybe departing from what a lot of other people have done is the way I'm gonna do quests, and despite it being a completionist playthrough, there are gonna be certain quests that I'm not gonna do. And you might be wondering, hey Ellie, how does that make any sense? How are you gonna call yourself a completionist? How are you gonna say you're doing a completionist run and then saying that you're just not gonna do certain quests? And it's because it's gonna be a completionist run with certain constraints. So I guess you could say, okay, it's not really completionist then, that the constraint is the more important thing. But with the constraint in place, I do still want to do everything else that is allowed. Given that, what is your deal? Like, why are you? After an enemy defends or provokes, okay, this creature attacks it. Right, fine. Fine. But yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about that for now. I don't want to completely spoil it because a big part of it is gonna be me explaining what the goal of the series is, why I'm operating under those constraints, and so on and so forth. That's it's gonna be something to look forward to. Hopefully soon. I'm gonna start planning for it pretty soon. So there is that. And hopefully before the end of this year, I will have gotten the sort of logistics, the infrastructure in place, and then hopefully at latest by early next year it'll start. Maybe, you know what, I'm not gonna commit to anything, certainly not in the middle of a video in a completely different game, but you know, now that I've said it, at least I've sort of made a soft commitment to at least do it at some point. Right? Now, if I just never do it at all, I'll feel really bad. So I've kind of committed myself in that sense. But with, you know, a bit of leniency in that, I can still figure out, you know, still work out what the schedule is going to be, what the timings are going to be, so on, right? So I think that's how I'll just handle it for now. Alright. Let's continue. We're into the 40s, and we are an hour and 8 minutes, so we've made pretty decent progress. And hopefully it finishes in under an hour and a half, because I am starting to feel kind of hungry. I budgeted about 2 hours for this episode, just in case it went long. But, you know, it is gonna be a lot less than 2 hours, which is nice. A lot less than 2 hours, but not so much less that I could do a second episode after this. Right. This would have had to have been a really quick episode. It's like, it would have to have been another Venodon boss fight level, you know, that extreme of like, we just finished the entire thing in under 30 minutes. That level of extreme speedrun efficiency. And this is not quite at that level, but it does mean that we'll have a nice relaxed breakfast after this, with the satisfaction of knowing that another one of these gods is now behind us. Yeah, he's getting tired. And we are also maybe you're getting tired as well. Maybe it's not just me. but it's not gonna take too much longer because there's just 10 more of these. Yeah. Setting up these macros was definitely the best decision that I made in this episode. Can you imagine doing this constantly and having to manually do these spells? That would be a little bit much. That would be a little bit too much. Alright. Alright, come on. Come on. Good night. Alright, okay. Okay, we're getting there. We're getting there. Alright. Yeah, what else is there to talk about? I talked about potential future builds. I talked about potential future series. I guess I could start talking about interesting things from my personal life, but there's a couple problems with that. Number one, it's likely that nobody wants to hear about it, and number two, I generally have a pretty boring life for the most part. Has there been anything interesting? Well, I mean, so in the neighborhood that I live in right now, there's some interesting wildlife. You see raccoons every once in a while, a lot of squirrels, obviously, those guys are everywhere. I saw a possum outside my window once, and that was pretty cute. But one thing you see fairly frequently is skunks. Now, obviously, I'm, as many people are... Ooh, we found another skin there. As many people are... As many people also probably are, I'm a little hesitant to get near skunks. So every time I see one, I kind of give it plenty of space, let it do its own thing, which can sometimes lead to a problem, right? Because one time, this was a couple weeks ago, I was coming back home from having done some groceries in the early evening, and there was a skunk just not directly outside the door, but pretty close to the door, and it was kind of just sitting there. And I was like, okay, well, how do I navigate this situation, because there's no other way for me to get inside. So I literally just waited. I was like, oh, you know what, this guy, I was like, you know, maybe I don't need to go into my own home right now. Maybe I'm just gonna stand outside here for a bit. And then I literally just turned back around, and there's a school across from where I live, and it's got a pretty big field around it. It's a place where I often go for walks, and so I just went for a walk. I just went for a whole extra walk, because there's a skunk outside the door, and when I got back from the walk, the guy was still there, but thankfully by this time I could see that the guy was moving, and I saw him move very slowly into like the yard area. And only once he was out of sight did I go inside. Yeah, that's a... I mean, not a lot of excitement in that story. You were probably listening, hoping that something, ooh, excitement. Start of battle. Ooh, interesting. Yeah. But yeah, you're probably listening to that story hoping that, oh, I hope he, like, the skunk does, you know, the thing that skunks are notorious for doing. Well, number one, that makes you an awful person. How dare you? No, but, like, yeah. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I navigated that situation successfully by being a complete coward. And, you know what? I do not regret it one bit. What did I lose? I lost about maybe 7-8 minutes of time. What did I gain? Well, I gained the satisfaction of not having been sprayed by a skunk. I've gone through my entire life, never been sprayed. I don't even know what it smells like. Actually, no, it's possible that I've smelled it not knowing what it was if a skunk has sprayed it somewhere else, because every once in a while you're walking through somewhere and inexplicably there's a weird smell and you're not sure what's causing it. So it's possible that I've smelled it not knowing what it was, if indeed there's some unusual smell somewhere that's caused by a skunk. But I have never been sprayed myself. And you know what? If I can get through life, through the rest of my life without ever getting sprayed by a skunk, I'll consider that a life well lived. You know? Again with the fucking spells. Wait, is this guy... hang on. Is this motherfucker immune to debuffs or something? No, he's not. He's just being a dick. All right. He's just being a dick. Where's my mutagen, man? So we even got a bit of excitement in these battles. Like, yeah, I was gonna say, like, there's no way for them to, you know, get any sort of an action done unless they have some way of performing their actions outside of their turns. For instance, at the start of battle. So good on them for breaking up the monotony a little bit. It's not going to help them. They're most likely not going to like win. But like, you know, at least they tried. They didn't just, you know, completely give up. They were always trying, just waiting for an opportunity. If they had a party excuse me, with multiple of those Vulpes creatures, and if they wiped out our entire party on turn 0, which put their entire party ahead of us in the turn order, even if we're resurrecting, then they could have a pretty good chance of finishing us off. But they weren't quite... They didn't quite have the wherewithal to do it. All right. Let's keep going. I've gone quiet again just because, again, I've run out of conversation topics. What else is there to talk about? Let's see, is there anything related to this game? Oh, hang on, I think I just remembered something. And it's actually something kind of bad. Oh, something kind of bad, but not that bad. So I think I forgot to summon the dumpling after we finally got enough mana to summon another one. I think it's possible. I'll have to check once we're done fighting this guy. If that's the case, then we'll have to summon a dumpling. But I don't want to do it in this episode, right? Because it feels like, you know, even though we don't really need dumplings anymore, it's still a bit of an occasion just because of how long it takes to, you know, just get a dumpling. I'll do that next episode, but I'll have to check. I'll have to check. I'm pretty sure we already summoned the mimic. Or, like, we don't have any outstanding mimics left to summon, but we can check that as well. Alright. Yep. You're done. I don't know which of them did something, but one of our creatures got damaged right as they died, which is kind of funny. So 3 battles left, 48, 49, and 50. Oh, got a salamander. What do you do? After your creature's defender provoke, well, let's make sure that they never do that. All right. Almost done. Well, maybe not. I think might be another 10-15 seconds left in this fight. But we shouldn't be that far. Oh, yep, you're done. Let's continue now to our penultimate combat. Ooh, that guy's repelling. So we're not going to be able to debuff him until... Ooh. Oh, he's just permanently going to be able to act. Okay, this could make for some interesting... make for an interesting situation. Because one of their party members is just going to constantly be taking their turn. So let's see if this Raving Storm can be a bit of a hero. I was gonna say I could make things easier for myself by casting Clayman, but I'm not going to. But then one of my creatures randomly cast Clayman anyway on my animators, which gave everybody extra health, which I think is kind of ended whatever small amount of tension there might have been at, you know. Oh, and there we go. Yet another, and Archangel's blessings as well. Yep. I feel bad for these guys. Like, once again, they thought they found a loophole, but then the RNG of our own party just buried them in the end. That's enough, though. That's enough. I think it's about to, oh, the Raving Storm was just about to get another turn. He was like, boss, let me go one more time. The boss is like, nope. Nope. They're too strong. Right. Final fight coming up. And how long have we been going? An hour 26, so under an hour and a half. Pretty decent. This time, though, nobody's immune. Nobody's doing any stuff at the start of combat. Nobody can do anything, really. So, a nice, gentle fight to end. I'm gonna have to do a bit of fiddling around when we're done to get our spells back and to fix our macros. Because otherwise I will go into a realm next episode with this stuff untended, and that would be pretty bad. That would be pretty annoying. So let's make sure we get that done. Getting tired of all this nonsense. It's about time for the evening. I completely. That's actually a pretty tough accent to do, and I completely butchered it that time. Yeah, we're about to get an achievement, I do believe. There we go. Get God's Lister 10. Wonderful. Now immediately, let's assign the Rabbit Dementia macro to everybody. Let's fix our spell gems. Greater Dispel for you. What was that? Exhaustion. Exhaustion for you. And you know what? Here's the thing about exhaustion is let's make it a double cast spell. Because if we want to increase battle fatigue, let's just fully lean into it, right? Let's just fully lean into it. Chance to cast twice. Any other thing? Chance to, more charges? Sure. And that's done. Is there anything else we need to do? We fixed our spells, we fixed our macros. Oh yeah, let's check to see. Yeah, we do have a dumpling to summon, but I'll summon it next episode. Vegetable dumpling. I guess we could summon another one of those. We'll do that next episode. But yeah, let's take a look at some of the achievements we got this episode. Really there's only going to be one group of achievements, which is for fighting Lister. We beat him, first of all, 10 times in total, and then we beat him all the way to level 50. We are now done with Lister. That's all good, that's all wonderful, and next episode I think we're just going to continue back into some regular realm delving. Let me take a look at my Rune of Prophecies. It's going fine. It's going quite alright. I guess I couldn't... Well, that's wonderful. All I needed was one roll to give me a wonderful item bonus. So even that's settled, and yeah, I think that's going to be all for this one. It was another good episode. I think this episode, I liked it because I really liked the solution that we came up with for the macros, because it was just, I believe, if you can improve upon this, I'd be very curious to see what your solution would be. If you think that you can do better than this. I'm not excuse me, like, I'm not bragging, like, I'm not saying, oh, like, I dare you to do better. I'm sure there are going to be ways to improve on this, but I feel like unless there's some way to cheat and win instantly by, you know, time walk or battle fatigue or some other technicality that ends the battle straight away. And if there is, do let me know. But if there isn't, if you simply have to wait for a set number of turns, I feel like this approach that we're using is pretty close to the best you can do. You can improve your times by reducing the number of actions you're taking per turn. For instance, I could have unequipped the relics on some of my creatures, the ones that were giving them extra actions, and that would have saved us some time. But other than that, like, is there any other way that you would find to save time? If you can think of any, do let me know. I'd be very curious. But yeah, I do think our solution was... I was very satisfied at having come up with that. It just worked so well. And yeah, and then we are done with Lister. We never have to... Well, we will have to fight him a few times for ascending the different specializations, but we'll never have to fight him 40 times in an episode ever again. So at least that much is done. And with that, I think it is time to call it good. It's time for me to say thank you so much for watching. I hope you had a good time, hope you enjoyed yourself, and I hope you'll join me next episode for some regular realm delving. That's going to be fun. And until then, take care.